Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call this hearing of the Assembly Education Committee to order. Seeing that we do not have a quorum yet, we will hold off on calling the roll to establish a quorum and proceed as a subcommittee. I'd like to invite all of the committee members that may be watching this on TV from their offices to please come to the room 1100 for today's hearing. We have 22 bills on file today. 2 bills have been pulled. Those bills are file item number 3, Senate Bill 480, and file item 11, Senate Bill 1063. So those bills will not be heard today if you are here for SB 480 or SB 1063. There are 11 bills on consent. They are SB 98 with amendments, SB 920, SB 939 with amendments, SB 1094 with amendments, SB 1138, SB 1315 with amendments, SB 1329, SB 1341, SB 1410, SB 1412, and SB 1429 with amendments. Those bills will be taken up as a group and will not be individually heard. So if you are here for any of those bills, you will not hear any bill presentation for those bills. Bills will be heard and signed in order. As a reminder, for each bill, we will have up to 2 witnesses in support, 2 witnesses in opposition. Each witness may speak for up to 2 minutes. Members of the public in the hearing room will then have an opportunity to state their position. Please only state your name, affiliation, and position on the bill. Members of the public are also welcome to provide comment through the position letter portal on the Assembly Education Committee's website. And so we will, do we have a sign-in sheet? Okay. All right. So first in sign-in order is file item number 10 by Senator Portantino, SB 997. Welcome, Senator. I understand you have a special guest and witness in support of your bill today, but I'll leave her introduction for you. Oh, hold on, Senator. We're having technical issues.
There we go.
Oh, there we go.
I'll start over. Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members. I'd like to start by accepting the committee amendments outlined in the analysis and appreciate the work of your staff and my staff for moving the bill to where it is today. Before you, SB 997 creates a student right to carry Narcan and fentanyl testing strips while at school. It is paramount that our students are equipped with the tools to combat the current opioid epidemic targeting our youth. Fentanyl poisoning and overdose account for roughly 80% of all opioid deaths. Narcan, which is widely known as, reverses the effects of an opioid overdose, providing more time to receive emergency care. Schools, amusement parks, concert venues, and other locations are readily equipped with Narcan, but students themselves are not in the habit of carrying it. It is critical that we empower students to carry these types of life-saving medications so they may begin to habitually carry it. As you know, the only way to know what's there is to test it, and so that's why the testing strips are important. We want to make sure that students are armed with Narcan and testing strips when they're at school, at parties, movies. We want to make sure that they have safe environments and they can help and play a responsible role in making their world around them healthier. California has taken great measures to ensure a well-supplied stock of Narcan is available in our system in order to protect students, but these efforts do not include the people who populate schools the most, which are our students. And the more students are able to help their peers when facing an overdose, the less likely the students will face an overdose-related fatality. So with me today, I'm very proud, is Libby Paquette, who is a constituent and a senior at Marlborough School. Libby is a former intern in my office, and she was the inspiration behind this bill. And so, Mr. Chair, she's my expert witness.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair and committee members, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak today. As Senator Portantino said, my name is Libby Paquette, and I'm entering my senior year of high school. I'm here to represent my generation and to urge you to support SB 997. This bill, authored by Senator Portantino, is crucial for protecting young Californians from opioid overdoses. In the past 3 years, fentanyl overdoses among middle and high school students has increased nearly 300%. This isn't just a statistic, it's a terrifying reality. This bill allows students to carry Narcan and fentanyl test strips, essential tools for preventing overdoses and saving lives. These resources must be accessible without parental consent. Despite our best efforts, some students will experiment with drugs, and we must equip them with the tools to do so safely. Fentanyl is 50 times more potent than heroin and 100 times more potent than morphine. Even a tiny amount can cause death. Let me share a story with you. Her name was Melanie. She was 15 years old, and she went to Helen Bernstein High School, a mile away from my high school in Los Angeles. Melanie and a friend bought fake pills that they did not know contained fentanyl. Melanie spent 8 hours in the school bathroom unconscious before paramedics found her and pronounced her dead. Can you imagine the agony that her family felt when they learned that Melanie had died from an accidental fentanyl overdose? These are words that no parent should ever have to hear. A test strip in a couple minutes could have saved her life, and if she would have been found sooner, Narcan could have saved her life. 2/3 of teens who die from fentanyl overdoses have no prior opioid use. Narcan is a life-saving medication that is now available over the counter, but it needs to be in the hands of all California students. Teens are more likely than school nurses to encounter an opioid overdose and act in time. Critics say that this may undermine parental authority, but fear of judgment can keep many students from seeking the help that they need. SB 997 ensures students can access these life-saving tools directly. This bill is about saving lives and fostering a culture of awareness and safety. Support SB 997, think of Melanie and countless others, protect youth from opioid overdoses, and ensure a safer and healthier future for California students. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I'd like to invite public comments in support of the bill. Please come forward. Before we do that, I'd like to call roll to establish quorum.
Mayor Succi?
Here.
Mayor Succi here. Flora? Here. Flora here. Addis? Alvarez? Here. Alvarez here. Bonta? Here. Bonta here. Hoover? McCarty?
We have quorum. Please proceed.
Thank you. Tom Renfrey on behalf of the California Association of Alcohol and Drug Program Executives in support.
Clifton Wilson on behalf of the City and County of San Francisco Board of Supervisors in support. Thank you.
Greg Pulser on behalf of Equality California in support.
Stella Johnson on behalf of Alameda County Office of Education in support.
Grace Harrison with the Steinberg Institute in support.
Seeing no further witnesses in support, any witnesses in opposition to the bill? Seeing no one coming forward. Any public comments in opposition to the bill? Seeing no one coming forward. Questions or comments from the committee? Motion's been made and seconded by Vice Chair Flora, seconded by Mr. Alvarez. Is it Ms. Paquette? Yes. Welcome to the state capitol. I want to thank you very much for being a voice for students and raising this very important issue. The 300% increase in the fentanyl incidents is very disturbing. I'm a father of a teenage daughter in high school, and I'm always, especially when I hear all of the discussion in the state capitol about this, the threat of fentanyl. I'm always sharing that with my daughter, and so your effort here today, working with Senator Portantino, is going to help save lives, educate more students about this crisis. And so I want to thank you very much for being here, being a voice for students, and making a difference. Senator Portantino, would you like to close?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate your comments. As Libby has outlined, there are real life and death consequences, and we need to arm our students, our young people, with as many tools as we can to make their world safer, and this bill goes a long way to make that happen, and respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Thank you. Motion's been made and seconded. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
File Item 10, SB 997. The motion is due pass as amended to appropriations. Mayor Succi.
Aye.
Mayor Succi, aye. Flora.
Aye.
Flora, aye. Addis. Alvarez. Alvarez, aye. Bonta.
Aye.
Bonta, aye. Hoover. Hoover, aye. McCarty.
5-0, the bill is out. Congratulations. Okay, next on the sign-in order. Okay. Okay. We have Senator Wahab here. So we don't have our usual sign-in. Huh? Okay. Which file? Okay. This is file item 16, Senate Bill 1318. Whenever you're ready, Senator.
Of the public, I'd like to start by accepting the committee's amendments. SB 1318 ensures that students experiencing a mental health crisis on school campus receive care from a qualified behavioral health professional. We are experiencing an unprecedented surge in child self-harm, and it's time for California to take action. We've seen a spike after COVID, or during COVID, I should say. And SB 13 requires the Department of Education to revise their model youth suicide prevention policy to include crisis intervention procedures that prioritize behavioral health professionals, and clarify that law enforcement, including resource officers, should only be involved when there is an imminent threat to the student's life. SB 1318 is a step towards the protection of our children, connecting them to the resources and professionals they need. I would like to introduce two witnesses, Mike Giambona, school psychologist at San Ramon Valley Unified, and Javier Saini, director of policy at Generation Up and Rising Junior at Dublin High.
Good afternoon. I'd like to thank the Senator for introducing this bill. I think it's something that is very important. As we've seen post-COVID, there have been more and more instances of children struggling with mental health and having mental health crises in school and at younger and younger ages. And the schools serve as the front line in identifying and supporting these students, and I'd like to give you two quick stories to sort of exemplify where the need for this bill comes in. There was a student who was a 9th grader with high-functioning autism and significant anxiety. When he became stressed, he would hit himself in the head. He would make statements, "I wish I was dead, I want to die." One day during his 4th period English class, he was taking an exam and became overwhelmed. He started to hit himself in the head, said, I hate this, I want to die. His teacher asked him to take a break outside. One of the aides followed him out. He continued to say that and to slap himself in the face. The aide became concerned, asked the teacher to step out to call the principal, and they did so. And as it was coming up on lunch and they could not get him to calm down, they decided to put him in a physical restraint. So a 2-person restraint means that they take him arm in arm and they hold him in the hopes that he will sort of de-escalate. However, without the proper training, those situations escalate the problem. And he couldn't get himself calm. So midway through lunch, they decided to call the school resource officer, who decided that we should 5150 him because they couldn't get him calm. He was not physically combative, but refused to move. And so they made the decision to put him in a rolling chair. On either side, a staff member held his arms while another staff member stood behind him and held him by the shoulders to get him out to the front gate so that he could access the ambulance. In order to do that, he had to be wheeled all the way through the lunch crowd, through the main quad, where his older brother and sister witnessed this, as did everyone else, as they also video recorded the situation, and it ended up on social media. He loaded it into the ambulance, went to the hospital, and 25 minutes later was released because he wasn't having a mental health crisis. He didn't require a hold. He simply was overwhelmed and didn't know how to de-escalate. And the staff in that situation didn't have the training and the skill in order to understand and differentiate that. And so wanting to go above and beyond to ensure that his safety, they took something that could have been sort of on the smaller side and made it a much bigger situation and caused significant harm emotionally to him and his family.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Javier Saini, and I'm a rising junior at Dublin High School, as well as a director of policy at one of California's largest youth-led advocacy organizations, Generation Up, aiming to foster educational equality. Today, I'm here to speak in support of SB 1318, because I firmly believe that crisis intervention protocols are a critical step towards addressing the urgent mental health and pupil suicide crisis that is affecting the youth in California. Since 2017, rates of anxiety and depression among California's children have shot up by 70%, and there's been a 20% increase in adolescent suicides. It is imperative that youth voices are heard because these issues are directly affecting us every single day. In my freshman year of high school, one of my best friends of over 5 years attempted to take her own life. She was in the hospital for almost 2 weeks, and I was devastated. And her story isn't the only one. Mental health conditions like depression and thoughts of suicide are a reality for numerous students just like me. And several students have taken their life on campus at my school, as well as hundreds of schools in California. It cannot be overstated that currently there is a clear lack of adequate resources for these students to get help. As school environments become more competitive and stressful, tackling this issue has become more important than ever. And that is exactly why crisis intervention protocols and the early involvement of mental health professionals are necessary in the event that a pupil experiences a suicide crisis on campus. Utilizing our school mental health professionals and trained school staff members who our students can trust and count on when addressing such crises is imperative. And that is exactly what SB 1318 advocates for. This bill truly has the potential to save the lives of millions of youth in California, and I strongly urge you to vote yes on SB 1318. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any public comments in support of the bill, please come forward.
Clifton Wilson on behalf of the California State Association of Psychiatrists in support, as well as the California Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry in support. Thank you.
Laura Wasco on behalf of the California Association of School Psychologists in support of the measure.
Tony Triguero, California Teachers Association, proud co-sponsors.
Amanda Dickey on behalf of the Santa Clara County Superintendent, proud co-sponsor.
John Drebinger with the Steinberg Institute in support.
Greg Pulser on behalf of Equality California in support.
Stella Johnson on behalf of the California School Nurses Organization in support.
Bella Kern on behalf of the California Association of School Counselors in support.
Derek Lennox on behalf of the California County Superintendents in support.
Tristan Brown, CFT, Union of Educators and Classified Professionals, here in support.
Seeing no further public comments in support, any witnesses in opposition to the bill? Seeing no one coming forward, any public comments in opposition to the bill? Seeing none, bring it back to the committee. Any questions? Mr. Hoover.
Thank you. Just a question for the author. I think obviously appreciate and respect the goals of this bill. I think my only question is in this section as it relates to school resource officers. Is there a reason you have that section in there, essentially trying to eliminate their involvement versus potentially requiring additional training or the districts to offer additional training for the school resource officers so that they can better respond to the crises and avoid, obviously, these situations like this?
Definitely. We've actually worked with school resource officers as well as the individuals that are actually trained in mental health. Specifically, you heard the long list of supporters. They are all fully trained, licensed individuals that are qualified to be working with students. Number one, people under the age of 18. Number two is also the fact that their profession is primarily focused on therapy and understanding children and much more. School resource officers are largely police officers. They go through post-training. Post, actually, and I'm chair of public safety, I'm very aware of this, it does require some mental health training, some de-escalation training. However, it is not suitable enough for the needs of children. Also, children that cannot communicate necessarily how they are feeling. Also, it takes a little bit more delicate of a touch when it comes to someone who's under the age of 18 and still going through, whether it's hormonal, whether it's chemical, or whether it's just natural lack of being able to understand exactly what's going on and articulate that. School resource officers are, number one, still involved. If it requires more of their professional skills when it comes to imminent threat. So they are not removed from the process, but the first thing that we need to prioritize is the de-escalation and being able to meet the kid where they're at. And that is what the bill is really trying to prioritize. Some of these folks that have actually spoken in support also represent the school resource officers. So that's how the bill is designed.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I definitely agree with the de-escalation portion of your comments. I do kind of, one of my concerns is that we're going to continue to have this situation where staff may not know where that line is crossed. And so I would hate for administrators or teachers to, be nervous about calling in a school resource officer if they don't quite know where that line is on whether there's a threat in place or something like that. But I appreciate the answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions from the committee? Senator Wahab, just following on Mr. Hoover's questions. Under your bill, what would a school resource officer do if she or he were the first to see the need for intervention? Is there anything in the bill that would prevent a school resource officer from intervening if they are the first to be there?
Not necessarily. And again, school resource officers do have some training, again, not to the level that some of these other professionals have their training. So I want to prioritize that. I also want to prioritize the fact that teachers largely know their students. They spend, almost a year, if not 6 months with a student. And these teachers are also very much qualified to know, okay, things are escalating. This kid is not necessarily behaving the way that they've done for the last several weeks and so forth. So if they feel the need to call for extra support, obviously those calls and those lines would first go to a therapist. If they need to call for extra support, and oftentimes school resource officers and the therapist work hand in hand. But I will highlight that school resource officers don't always know the student as deeply as the teacher, and at the same time, the professional that we're trying to prioritize first doesn't necessarily need to have the relationship because they're, trying to implement de-escalation tactics first and foremost and are better trained in that situation.
Yeah, no, I can appreciate that we should let the mental health, those that are trained in dealing with mental health crises to be the first to respond. I just want to make sure that if there is a school resource officer on the premises, that they would not be restricted in any way from being involved in trying to help the student.
Definitely.
So you would agree that that is not the intent of the bill?
That is not necessarily the intent, but I do, again, want to prioritize that the spirit of this bill is to prioritize the subject matter experts first and foremost.
Okay, well, thank you. Important bill. Thank you for sharing that example that really kind of illustrates how a bad situation can be made worse by lack of training in terms of the crisis intervention protocols. And so fully in support of the bill with the amendments, which she accepted. Would you like to close?
I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Okay. We need a motion and a second. Okay. Moved by Vice Chair Flores, seconded by Mr. Alvarez.
File item 16, SB 1318. The motion is due pass as amended to appropriations. Mayor Succi.
Aye.
Mayor Succi, aye. Flora. Aye. Flora, aye. Addis. Alvarez. Alvarez, aye. Bonta. Hoover. Hoover, no. McCarty.
Bill is 3-1. 3-1. Bill is on call. Thank you. Okay. Next in signing order, as well as being present in the room, is file item number 14, Senator Wilk, SB 1194.